Welcome to the Zveda podcast. I'm Jamie.
And I'm Lorena.
We're a community for women by women. We're here to help each other rise to impact generations. Hi, ladies. This is Jamie.
Hey, and it's Lorena.
Welcome back to another episode of Zveda, She Rises podcast. We're so glad you're with us this week. Hey, I just want to say thank you all for continuing to tune in and give us your feedback and your comments and submit your questions. It's so great to hear from you and to hear how you're doing out there in the world and in your career, journey. Just keep that coming. We just really appreciate that. And that is what helps us build this community and strengthen our community by hearing from you and learning from each other. It's the only way to do it. So thank you and keep it up. So we're going to kick off our episode today with talking about boundaries.
And saying no.
Some things we don't necessarily like to do. I think especially for women, sometimes we just have a hard time saying no. We don't want someone to feel bad, right? Whether that's in our personal lives or our family, our families, our friends, and even, yes, in the workplace. But it's really so important. I mean, I was just talking about this week several times with individuals, just how important it is to create a boundary for yourself in the workplace. I think oftentimes, I'll start with a personal story. One of the things that I'm guilty of is I want to go on vacation. I really need a break, but I still tune in to work. I might check email here and there. I'm still on.
Yeah.
And that is not only bad for me, but it's also training people on my team that, she's on vacation, but she's always going to be available and on. And that's super unhealthy because at the end of the day, you're not giving yourself an opportunity to truly recharge and be your best self for your team. So we want to talk a little bit about that today. And that's just one example. Another example is how to say no when you're already overloaded with projects and that new project comes up, that request comes in from another team member or even your supervisor. Oh my gosh, how do you say thank you, but no?
Or I can take this on if you can help me deprioritize something else and take something else off of my plate.
Yes. So I think we just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the ways that we would suggest you work through that and communicate that to your supervisor and your teams, and just really encouraging you to understand that when we do say no, when we are grateful for the opportunity, but say, listen, I've got these other core priorities on my list. Sit down with me. Like Lorena said, what can we move? What can we shift? I'll be happy to take this on. Or better yet, maybe there's someone else on the team that would really thrive in this request and it would give them an opportunity to grow and to shine. So thinking of, changing our mindset around, well, if I say no, I'm going to look bad or I'm going to make someone else feel bad too. No, if I say no, then I'm giving someone else an opportunity to step into something they might really enjoy doing.
Yeah, I think that's great, Jamie. And just circling back to how this is so important with setting boundaries, like if you don't, put those protective kind of shields up that can guard your workload for what is realistic, then you do get overloaded. And that's what leads to burnout. And that's what leads to, just physical sickness, needing to take more time off. It's just, we got to have those healthy boundaries in the workplace. And a really good book that's a great resource that one of my mentors actually shared with me a few years back. It's called Essentialism. And the author, his name is Greg McNown. And this book is all about discovering what your essential intent is, or what is your purpose, your calling. That's another way to say it. But his whole premise is outlining a lot of different ways that we can say no so that we make room for really what we need to be doing. Those top 4 or 5 big commitments in our lives, and job and vocation being one of those commitments. And so one of the ways that he talks through, I'll just give you a little sneak peek into the book that I really love, is it's like the 0 to 100 scale of easily being able to say no. So a great description of this is, okay, you've got your scale here, 0 to 100, and 0 is like, heck no, I am not doing this, whatever, opportunity comes your way. Or the, far end of the spectrum is a heck yes, absolutely, I want to do this. I'm fully bought in. This aligns with what I feel called to do, need to do. And then there's just points kind of along the way in between those two extremes on the scale. And he says that whenever you get an opportunity that comes your way, to rate it on that scale. Is it something, more towards this end that, you don't really want to do? Or is it closer, is it like a 60, 70, 80, 90, closer to this end of the scale? He says, so first thing you do is rate it. And then he's like, the easy way to say yes or no to something is, he says, anything lower than a 90 is an automatic no. And the power in that, because a lot of times we'll be like, maybe I want to do this. Maybe I want to go hang out with this group of people after work. Or maybe, he's like, if anything's rated like a 60, 70, or 80, he's like, that's how oftentimes you'll find what you're feeling obligated to do. And if you automatically say no to that, then it leaves room for you to say yes to an opportunity that might just be around the corner. So it's a powerful nugget. So I'd encourage anybody who wants to grow in saying no to read this book. It's powerful.
No, that's so good. And one of the conversations that I had this week was with my personal business coach. And, just when I think I've mastered something, she points out, not so much.
There's always more room for growth.
There's always more. But along the same lines as what you were just saying, we often will say yes to things, but they're not the best things. And I think we've talked about that before on our podcast is, are you making room for the best things? So an example is, I have a goal to pay off personal debt. Well, I can often, and part of that is finishing a course that I've paid for, signed up for. And I'll have this, thought of like, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to finish it in 1 week. Well, part of that is like, okay, what are the details? Like, let's go back to the details, back up. Each session is, 30 minutes to an hour. So how can you possibly, and there's, 15 sessions left. Can you really tackle accomplishing that in 1 week? No. So, the boundary there is, all right, I've got to look at spacing this out. I've got to be very specific on my calendar, what I'm going to work on and when. So I'm taking 30 minutes on a Monday evening or an hour on a Saturday night. This is specifically what I'm going to accomplish and do and focus on during that time. So the whole point being that creating a schedule, being specific in that, it helps you to create boundaries because then when things come up, you can say, oh, all right, well, I'm going to have to negotiate here. Like, yes, I would love to go have dinner tonight or go to the lake and spend the day with friends or tackle a different project that maybe my church community has or even work. But gosh, I really have this commitment that I've made to myself and I need to create a boundary here. So one of the keys that I wanted to cover is sharing that. Yeah. Sharing your goals, whatever those are. We're talking about career here, but even sharing some of those big goals that you want to accomplish, a project you want to finish with your supervisor, with the people on your team, maybe a close friend. Like, listen, I'm really trying to achieve X, Y, Z in the next 3 months. And I'm sharing this with you so that you know that I'm committed to finishing this. And as new things come up, you'll be able to help me set a boundary to make sure I keep this as a priority to accomplish for you, my supervisor, my team, myself, etc.
Yeah. And that's great. And just to kind of button this up before moving into the main portion of our episode, I really love, Jamie, how you said that when you have certain things planned, that's what actually creates those boundaries in your schedule, so that then you can be empowered to say no, because it's not just, oh, I'm saying no because I'm not going to do this. It's I'm saying no because I've already committed to something else.
Right.
So that just gives a greater confidence when approaching other people and having to say no. And another little tip that I just thought of too is a lot of times I still sometimes can be swayed by pleasing people or the fear of man. And a really great way to kind of wiggle through being able to say no to somebody is the no but. Like say no to what they're asking you to do, but then offer something that you are willing to commit to. That's a really great way to like still build connection with that person and keep that trust. But, saying, no, I really can't commit to doing this project, but I'm willing to, help give some feedback with the person who can do it, like still offering value. So that's also another really great tip with saying no is a no, but I can do X, Y, and Z. So
awesome.
Yes, that was our trending topic, setting boundaries and learning to say no. So the next portion of our episode is going into the main topic, which is lean back in who you are and whose you are. And so the whole premise of this episode that we wanted to tackle today is the old mindset. Remember how we're doing different mindsets, the old mindset transitioning into a new way of thinking. This old mindset says, I have to prove myself. It's I have to do it on my own. I have to perform in order for my identity to be secure. I have to prove myself through what I can do. And that old mindset is what we want to squash today. We want to debunk that mindset. But I'll just go into sharing a little bit of my story in transition after I graduated from college. This was back in 2015, I think. After college, I was looking for a job at either a marketing firm or a PR firm. And in the midst of that time, I had a couple of business mentors who helped me, really get my resume nice and pretty, get some cover letters going, helped coached me to get ready for different interviewing experiences. And it was so interesting, Jamie, because in that process of about probably, it's like 3 or 4 months in the middle of 2015, I had interviewed at a lot of different companies. But what sticks out in my mind is there were 8 different firms in a row that I interviewed at, and they got me up to like the final round of interviews with one other person, and 8 times in a row, you guys, they chose the other person.
Wow.
And I was just like, what is happening? And even my business mentors, ones who were believers and ones who even weren't, but super savvy in the marketplace, they were like, we literally don't understand what's happening. Like, you're doing everything right. You're doing everything and even going above and beyond what you're supposed to do in this process, and the door is still not opening.
Wow. Well, how did you feel in that?
Oh my gosh. It brought me to this place where I was like, I literally don't know what to do. I don't know if anything I can do can actually open this door. Wow. And it caused me to question. I had to turn to the Lord, and I was like, Lord, are you purposing me to be in this season for a certain reason? And
what are you trying to show me?
And what are you trying to show me? Exactly. And what it came down to in that journey was he had told me, he's like, Lorena, I have specific things for this season. And where I was currently working at a dental office in West Austin, he's like, I have specific purpose to work on your character in this season. And he said, you can scrap yourself out of this, because I know it's a job you don't necessarily like, you're not jazzed about. I mean, you're thankful, but it's not what you like super desire to be doing. Yeah, I knew the Lord had put me there, but it wasn't what I had gone to college to do. And it just in different ways was kind of a frustrating season. But he's like, you can scrap your way out and the same lessons will be waiting for you. Just, you're going to be wasting time essentially.
Later on.
Yeah.
It always comes back around.
It always circles back around. Yeah. And he was like, or you can let me do the working in your heart and in your character that I want to do in this season. And you can let me promote you out into the next thing.
Wow.
So at that point I was like, okay, Lord, like, I'm not going to try. And that's when I just shifted to not even interviewing at that point. And that's part of my journey. But it gets to the core of this mindset of the old mindset being, I have to prove myself. I have to get a job at a PR or marketing firm because I got a degree in corporate communications. I've got to get this, it was just this like one, it was only this one way is what I thought had to be successful and had to be achieved. But in that moment, since the door wasn't opening and I knew God was a part of it, I was just like, well, I got to lean back in who I am. And I got to lean back in who I belong to, that I belong to the Lord, that I'm a daughter of the King, even in the midst of being told no many times in a row.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Like I can imagine that many of you're listening to that story and you might be in this season right now.
It might be happening for you.
Where, I mean, gosh, we're definitely in a time where it's, people are seeking new employment and
starting their own businesses.
Yeah. Starting your own business. You're in transition. And hearing that no, we've all heard the no. It can be deflating.
It can be
discouraging, deflating. You start doubting who you are. I've been there where it's like, well, maybe I'm not as smart as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not as talented of a leader as I always thought that I was.
Yeah. Or maybe I'm not qualified for this kind of job.
Qualified for this. I need to completely scrap, all of this education or experience and start over. Who knows? But we could often get into that place of kind of wallowing in this. Well, I'm not good enough. And I think that's where the enemy really can take hold. And it's in those moments when we recognize that we have a great opportunity to step out of that. I was actually sharing with Lorena earlier. I was listening to a podcast this week by Michael Todd. He was featured on the Global Leadership Summit podcast. Greg Rochelle was interviewing him. He's a young leader, young pastor who went for several years being told no. And, he went for I think it was 2 years for having 40 people listening to his messages to really within a week's time period, over 40,000 followers, and really recognizing his influence. So he was really talking about this concept of being told no and having to work through that. And his encouragement, his point was, listen, if you're going to be told no.
Yeah, period. It's going to happen in life.
We've talked about this on a previous podcast. You're going to experience pain from that no. But if you can take that as a learning and an opportunity, there's always something to learn out of the no. So whether that's, hey, I'm presenting a new idea. And he actually shared a story. It's like, I went to present an idea, a 30-page presentation. I was excited and ready to go. And the team, I got to slide 2 and they were like, no.
Just like complete shutdown.
No, shut down. Not right now. Man. Not the right time. And he said, I could have walked away from that with an attitude of whatever. What do you know? These are great ideas. Been offended, set in the offense.
Wow.
And missed the opportunity to like, all right, well, I'm going to keep going. I'm going to learn from this. I'm going to ask questions. I'm going to set up meetings with my supervisor. I'm going to bring this topic up again. I'm just going to keep learning, because what that does in these seasons where we're told no, it can shape our character.
Yep.
As you said.
Yep.
It can shape our talents, our strengths. We can hone those skills so that when the opportunity for that yes comes up,
you're ready.
We're ready.
That's exactly right. Yeah. I think that's so powerful, is that a lot of times when we're so focused on one goal, which it's not bad to have goals and things that you're aiming for, but there might be a time where God just sovereignly circumvents that. And there's different, circumstances that can impede what you're going after, because the Lord might actually be wanting to take you through a different kind of season.
Right,
he might exactly. Like for me, I was like, oh, I got to get, this type of full-time job. I've got to have these benefits. I've got to, have these professional development development opportunities. And that was my whole focus after college, because that's, the thinking that I was told from a lot of my professors, which isn't bad. It just, the Lord was like, Lorena, that's not what I'm highlighting in this season. I want to actually like shape your character so that you can adult really well. And then when I do give you that opportunity, you'll have the character and the capacity to hold what it is that I've given you.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about this in leadership a lot as well. We will look at a new hire, maybe someone young in their career, and we want to protect them from failing, failing for themselves, failing for others. So, we'll want to look at, okay, here's your expertise. Here are the opportunities that we can give you to grow in that, to learn. But a lot of times we as young people, I remember even myself, back in my 20s thinking I can step into a job and start leading other people. I was not equipped to lead other people.
And you don't know it until you actually like experience different situations that they just play out naturally in the workplace. And I know for me, like the first job that I had when I did work at this dental office, there were so many things that I learned about administration, about customer service that I just didn't know I needed to go through. And I was so thankful to have some older women that I worked with that could help me and mother me in a way of like what to do and how to respond and how to treat people in certain scenarios. And it just helped me grow thicker skin, greater sense of professionalism, and even empathy in the workplace. Yeah. So it was really a great opportunity for me to have that covering when I didn't even realize that I needed it.
Yeah. No, I think we all have to kind of walk that. So we've talked a bit about, the old mindset and how we can maybe get stuck there.
Of having to prove ourselves.
Proving ourselves, thinking we have to prove ourselves, maybe going on the wrong path. So Lorena, how do we squash that?
Yeah. So the new mindset that is debunking the old mindset of I have to prove myself is just the encouragement to lean back in who you are, so your identity, and whose you are, who you belong to. And so just kind of digging into that a little bit deeper, as Jamie had said, whenever we do experience, being told no or rejection, it often goes to the very core of our identity if we have latched our identity onto the things that we do with our time. And it's so easy to do, whenever we're introducing ourselves to people. Hi, I'm Lorena and I'm, business owner of Zveda and we have a podcast. It's so easy just to like identify myself and what I do. But that's really not like the core of our identity. It's that we are daughters of the King and that we are children of God. That's our core identity, and that we're the beloved of Christ and we have a relationship with him. And so leaning back, just being like, okay, like it's not in what I do. It's not in proving myself, achieving certain things. Although those things are important, that's not the core of who we are.
I think it's important to think through, and a lot of times it takes our friends to help us just reevaluate who we really are. Especially when we're told no, right? When we face that rejection, whether that's a job interview or even a relationship. Being reminded of, no, here are the skill sets that you have. Here are the strengths. Here's, you're smart. You're great at project management. You can put together a schedule and stick to it better than anyone I've ever met. You're an encourager. When you walk into a room, the space changes. I can feel a physical change in the space because you just bring a light and a joy to the space. You work hard at what you do. You set goals. So just starting to really define the truth behind who you are. Yeah. And remind yourself of that. And really, ladies, this takes sometimes just sitting down with a pen and paper. And for every negative that you think about yourself, replacing that with the truth of the positive. Like, no, this is what I've accomplished. This is what I'm thankful for. Here are the skills that I have, because those skills, especially in a job, a career, even entrepreneurship, you're going to be able to put those to use exactly where they need to be in the time that they need to be in. And that's kingdom. That's the truth of what God says. He's going to put us exactly where we need to be based on, for ourselves
and
but
for
also
others,
for people around us.
Yeah.
Many times it's not even about us. We hear a no, or we face rejection because he's like, no, I don't want you with this group of people. I need you over here.
Yeah.
This experience that you have, this attitude that you have, these talents that you have, these individuals aren't ready for it, or maybe it's run its course. I need you over here to impact this other group of individuals.
Yeah. Yeah. I think too, Jamie, that's so powerful. Like, God can remind us of that it's oftentimes about others and not about us, wherever he puts us in our assignments. And also having community and friends to remind us of who God says that we are. I think also that the truth that is behind this new mindset of leaning back into who you are and whose you are is knowing that God has a unique story for each of us. I know that oftentimes, I remember, when I was in college and different peers of mine that I would have conversations with, especially those who were in like pre-med or that were getting an engineering degree or business degree, it was like these preset of steps that you would take, and then you would get this kind of job. And it was like, okay, if you just follow what's prescribed, then you will get this outcome. But I don't think that's kingdom. I think that is a certainty that is based on worldly experience, which is not bad in itself, but knowing that when things don't go according to a prescribed plan or even someone else's measure of success, it's okay. You haven't missed the mark. You haven't failed. Remember that God has a unique story for you, and it involves more than just what you're gifted in, what you're called to do. It actually also has to do with the assignment to the people that he has for you to influence.
Right. And I would say, even in your own example that you started with, and being told no at those organizations, even looking back at that, it's like, well, if you would have said yes to one of those, I may never have run across your path.
Same. Yeah.
Because the steps that you took and where he took you and the individuals that he introduced you to is how we met.
That's right.
So you can do that in your own life. Like just looking at wherever you are right now, what's happened? What's transpired? Who have you met? What are the opportunities that have been brought forward to you? There's, these things are always, in my mind, it's God always trying to get us back on the path of where he wants us and where he needs us and where he wants to use our skills and our talents.
Yeah. So I'm sure y'all are wondering how that part of my story ended up. So just to keep it going, and then we can move into the next part of our episode. So so all of 2015, after I was told no multiple times, I was like, okay, Lord, I just surrender. Like I'm going to stop trying to get out of this. And I think it was about a period of about 8 months where I didn't do any job searching, nothing. I just yielded to the season he had me in and was like, okay, Lord, give me opportunities to share the gospel where I'm working. Teach me different things about my character, teach me how to, like one of the things that I learned, I remember, was since it wasn't even an industry that I had known a lot about or was passionate about, I just felt like I failed all over the place. I was like, I'm not good at this. I don't like this. And I just remember being like, you know what? Like, get back up and keep learning. Like, that's just part of the process of a full-time job. Anyways, that's a little side story, but what it did come down to was, I think it was summer of 2016, I felt a release by the Lord to start looking at different companies again. And so I found a company, it's a digital media agency on the east side of Austin. And I ended up just reaching out to the lady who is the culture manager at the time. She did life coaching. I did some on the side as well. And she went to UT. So did I. I was like, wow, this girl just looks really cool. Like, I just want to reach out to her and see if we can, have a phone call and me hear her story. Well, she was like, hey, actually would love to get lunch with you. I was like, oh, okay. So we got lunch and she asked me what I wanted to do. And I was like, well, I think I'm interested in maybe project management or administration, something that's, I can organize and just help people and projects and get experience at an agency. And she was like, well, actually today, one of the ladies, part of our team, just put in her 2 weeks notice. And so they're accepting applications. And I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up putting my application in and going through the interview process. And that's where the Lord opened the door for me. And it was a really neat just transition in season, but it came at the right time. And it was just a part of the story that God had for me in my journey. But I had to lean into who God has made me to be, and also remembering that I'm a daughter of the King. He has good things planned for us. Even in challenging seasons, he's still a good father and wants to give us good things.
Yeah, that's awesome.
So. All right. So talking about just getting practical here, just a couple nuggets, because I know we want to shift to one of our health tips and then a couple questions from the community. So just getting practical, how to live empowered during transition. That's, really what we've been talking about as the main part of our episode today. It's just really a couple things, spending time with God daily, hearing his voice, letting him declare who you are as a daughter, his banner over you is love, all of these things that just need to wash us every day so that our identity is strong and secure in him. Also, in a time of transition, it might be good to revisit what your definition of success is. There might be things that God might be wanting to say, hey, actually, I have something else for you that's much better. Or I have something that maybe put this on the back burner for now and focus on this for this season. And another thing that we want to just remind everybody is just getting practical is just a value of resiliency. And all that means is bouncing back when when life beats you down or when you're told no, getting back up. That's the biggest thing, is not staying down and kind of wallowing, like Jamie was saying at the beginning, wallowing in that, well, I'm not good at anything and this is da 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 da. No, like just know, okay, that wasn't the opportunity, but I'm going to keep flipping things over to see where it is. So keep bouncing back and be resilient. So.
Yeah. And I think just to add to being, practical, it's not going to be perfect. And if you, especially like talking about our time with God, just picking a time of day that works for you. And yes, you may think like, oh, I want to spend an hour in prayer, but that might not be practical for you. So start small. Like, I think that's where I have found myself, when I do get in those moments of wallowing, taking one small step, whether it's my devotional time, or it's, hey, I need to get back on track with working out, or I need to get a new attitude about myself. Just one thing, just do one thing to hear the truth, to find some success, to start getting encouraged. But definitely, like Lorena said, you have to pick yourself up. Maybe spend a day in your wallow. Feel sorry for woe is me.
Yeah. Feel the feelings. Don't deny them, but don't stay there.
Don't stay there. Yeah. And, most people have one friend or family member that's always good at picking you up. Reach out, send a text, call them up, get inspired, and then focus on something small that you can accomplish every day to help move you forward in that season.
Yeah. That's awesome, Jamie. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah. So health and hospitality tip. This is just a small one because we do want to spend some time answering this really thought-provoking question from the community that we got this week. So just health tip, ladies, take vitamins, take some supplements, make sure you're getting those, just different things that your body needs, the nutrients, the energy. One that I take, actually, it's a women's multivitamin that I take every day. It's by Garden of Life, just women's multi. That is a great one. I'm also taking some B12, which has to do with like helping, just mental and physical energy. Jamie, some others that you take, maybe one or two other things that work for you?
Collagen is great to take just for your skin and your bones and your cartilage and the things you don't think about, especially when you're in your 20s. But I will tell you, if you do, it's going to save you from a lot of pain when you're in your 40s.
It's good to know.
So yeah, just that's part of self-care, is taking care of your body. If you're not drinking water, drink water.
Yeah.
Find a way to drink more water. It's great for your mood. It's great for your clarity of mind. Get your greens. There's so many supplements for greens and getting the vegetables and the vitamins that we don't get from our diet.
Yeah.
So just put some focus behind it. I use Ritual. It's a women's multi. It tastes like a mint. So if you have trouble with like chalky vitamins, like, I just can't stand the flavor. Tastes like mint. So,
Fresh breath too.
find something that works for you, but take them and really focus on your internal health, because that is what is going to, especially I think now in this season we're in, where we're inside so much and we're by ourselves and, stuck in our homes. Just, it'll help your mood.
Yeah.
It really, really will. So
absolutely. That's great. Thanks, Jamie.
Yeah.
So lastly, what women want to know. What did we hear from the community, Jamie? I know you got a very specific kind of scenario that I'd love to talk through together.
Yeah. And this is, it's funny when she sent it to me, she responded to me with, this might be a whole episode.
Which, hey, it could be.
But I think many of us have either been in this situation or might be experiencing it right now. So I think this is very timely. This is from Becky in Cedar Park, Texas. And this is what she says. She's a manager of a team of 4, and they're an awesome team. Her direct boss, though, offices in another city, so remote, and is fantastic. However, her counterpart is in my local office. But even though he's not necessarily my boss, he is the boss of everyone here in the local office. On several occasions, he has overwritten a decision I've made for my team without consulting me or even my direct boss. He's never asked me for my feedback on how our 2 teams should work together. So I actually was proactive, and I started to send him a weekly report to recap my team meetings and any concerns that would arise. He hasn't even acknowledged that I've done that, and he still hasn't addressed the issues that I've brought up. Truly, he acts like a one-man show, and I'm not amused. What's my next step to get him to acknowledge my role here? And she went on to share that her role is new to the organization.
Okay.
So, maybe that's part of it, but I think the main question is, how do I create impact here? How do I get him to acknowledge me, that I have contributions to make? So yeah,
I think that is a challenging situation to be in. I think an initial thought that comes to my mind, and again, we can talk about the sequencing of these different things, because every organization is different,
right.
But something that comes to my mind is knowing what the organizational chart and structure is for the organization and kind of who has what domain, and making sure that, whether it's your boss or the one, maybe above Becky's boss, having that clarity of who is responsible for what, and then those clear channels of communication, making sure that they're open, especially for a newly defined role. That's where some of the tension can be, because you're still in some ways trying to figure what that looks like, trying to figure that out. But I think in this case, Becky, maybe one just recommendation that I would have is sharing that this is happening with this person's boss. And again, we can talk about the order of when to do these different steps, but so that boss is aware and then can help kind of trickle things down back to that person so that there can be some kind of resolution. But Jamie, what else would you recommend?
Yeah, I think, one of the things that I've learned in leadership, and even in my career before, I was navigating leadership, was it's always best to go to the source and go with just the open honesty and humility of, hey, listen, I'm setting a meeting with you. I want to just talk through. I know my role is new here. I know this is a new experience for you. And my goal is I want to make your job easier. I want to be able to bring forward new ideas and processes to help you and to help our team and to move us to success. So I've encountered a few challenges and I want to talk through those. Here's what I've noticed. It doesn't seem like you're open to some of the ideas that I have. Help me understand how I could best present those so that we can work together to bring those to fruition. Are there any ideas that you might have for me that maybe I'm unaware of some of the initiatives you're working on or what you'd like to see move through the local office? Just really having open communication, not skirting around the issues at all, but also being respectful and honoring to that individual and really showcasing, I understand you have authority, right? Like, you don't have to say that, but you're demonstrating that. I understand you have authority.
Yeah.
You're over this team. Gosh, I know there's a lot on your plate. I understand that you have a lot on your mind. My job is to help yours become easier. So let's work together. Here's some things, here's some issues I've noticed. Here's some improvements I think we could make. Here are some of my ideas, and get thoughts. And I would say 8 out of 10 times, the individual will be like, oh my gosh, you know what? I haven't even thought of that. Thank you for coming forward. Thank you for being so transparent. I've even had people tell me like, I know this must have been awkward for you.
But to have the courage to do that. Wow.
Yeah. To have the courage to come like, okay, yes, I see your point. Let's talk this through. Now there is that small percentage where someone can be just a jerk, and man or woman, doesn't matter. Position really doesn't matter either. It could be a leader. It could be a team member.
Yeah.
And they just aren't hearing you. And in that case, I think it's really important to then, as you were saying, Lorena, like really look at that chain of command. It's like, okay, I've tried to go direct. I've been honoring. I've been respectful. I've shared my ideas. I've been proactive and trying to set meetings and conversation, and it just isn't going anywhere. In which case I would say, all right, another solution needs to be put in place, where you're having conversation with your supervisor and this individual, or even this individual supervisor. Like, hey, I'm coming to you because I have a challenge and I'm hoping that you can help me overcome it. These are the conversations that I've had with so-and-so and my boss. Here are my ideas. My goal really is to make sure that my new role is successful for you, is successful for the company, and that I am being heard and acknowledged and can bring forward change. That's the whole reason why you wanted to hire me, right? So here are the things that I presented. I don't think we're seeing eye to eye. Could you help me navigate this? I think always with that statement, could you help me, whether it's the person that's being a pain and or their supervisor, help me navigate this. Help me understand.
That's great.
Show me how I can work through this, how we can be more successful together. It's not about having someone like you. You know, I think we can often get stuck in that too. Like, oh, if I do this and they're not going to like me, it's really not about that. We want that, right? We want people to like us in the workplace, but sometimes it's going to have to just be hey, we're going to have to just agree to disagree, but I'm going to respect your position, and in turn, I will respect yours. We're going to work on this together. And so I know that's a lot of information, but I think just going to the source and really asking those questions allows them to see like, oh, you know what? They really do care about me.
Yeah, that's great.
And they care about the company, and they care about our success. And I would really be remiss if I ignored them.
Yeah, that's awesome, Jamie. I love just all of the kind of role play even that you demonstrated, and some key phrases. One that sticks out to me: help me understand. Please help me navigate. Like, these are great because people want to help others. And so I think that you emphasize those. That is powerful.
Yeah.
So thank you for answering that question, Becky. We hope that it's helpful for you. But ladies, continue to send questions our way. We want to, continue to help and offer our thoughts and feedback, and even open things up for, other members of the community to chime in at different points.
And I think it would be really valuable, Becky, if you wouldn't mind, email us, contact us. Let us know if you put some of these into practice, you tried them out, and how it went.
Yeah, we want to hear that.
Because the resolution can really help other people that are navigating similar situations.
Absolutely. Awesome. Well, thanks, ladies, so much for joining us today, and we hope that you'll have a great week.
Thanks for listening to the Zveda podcast. Keep your questions coming so we can rise together. Visit Zveda.com to talk to us and join our community. That's Zveda.com. We'll see you next week.